Thank you, and I wish to advise all delegations that the list of speakers is now closed. I now give the floor to Mr. Gideon Essebon for his presentation. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam President, distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. I would like to begin my remarks by thanking the President of the Council for the invitation to participate in this enhanced interactive dialogue. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate the position of the Government of Ethiopia that all credible allegations of serious human rights violations that have been reported in relation to the situation in Tigray and other regions in Ethiopia should be thoroughly investigated. In line with this commitment, the appropriate state organs of the Government of Ethiopia have launched investigations into allegations of serious human rights violations and have undertaken measures to ensure accountability and bring perpetrators of violations to justice. In addition to these investigations and accountability measures that have already been taken, the Government of Ethiopia has also facilitated the launch of a joint investigation by the Ethiopian and UN Human Rights Commissions. In their statement issued just before this session, the heads of the two commissions have expressed their view that the joint exercise has been a robust, impartial and independent investigation. While we'll have to wait for some time before the findings and recommendations of the investigation are issued, we would like to recognize the endeavor of the UN High Commission for Human Rights and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission to conduct a credible investigation. In accordance with established practices and procedures, we also look forward to receiving the advanced copy of their joint findings and questions with adequate time to submit the government's response and explanations to meet the pertinent standards of a balanced and credible report. The Government of Ethiopia is committed to carefully consider and take under advisement the findings and recommendations of the joint investigation. We are optimistic that the finding of the joint investigation would help provide clarity and be of assistance in the effort to ensure accountability. As I have noted earlier, federal and military prosecutors have pressed charges and taken other appropriate legal and disciplinary measures against several individuals that have been suspected of committing various types of human rights violations. The joint investigation could complement these judicial and legal proceedings that are underway by highlighting areas and issues that need more attention. However, I must point out that the temporal scope of the joint investigation is such that the findings would be incomplete. It's our understanding that the cutoff period for the joint investigation is the declaration of the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire by the federal government. This means the egregious and deplorable human rights violations that have been committed by the TPLF in the Afar and Amhara regional state, including but not limited to the extensive use of child soldiers, the killing of hundreds of civilians in places such as Galikoma and Chena, would not be covered by the joint investigation. As a result, the report of the joint investigation would be incomplete and might not give a full picture. Be this as it may, we still appreciate the fact that this was an investigation that was done with a robust presence on the ground and a team composed of local and international experts. Regrettably, not all parties who claim to be undertaking an investigation have followed such an approach. For instance, the African Human and People's Rights Commission has unfortunately opted to conduct a unilateral investigation outside the scope of invitation extended to it by the Government of Ethiopia. Contrary to established practices and procedures, the African Commission chose to engage in a process which is neither independent nor credible and hence not recognized by the Government of Ethiopia. This anomalous process relies extensively on the supposed testimony gathered from refugee camps in Sudan, where many of those suspected of being responsible for the Maikadra massacre are present. There is also ample evidence that there are thousands of combatants in these refugee camps, many of whom are still actively engaged in hostilities against the Government of Ethiopia. The Government of Ethiopia would not recognize any inquiry that gives an opportunity to the perpetrators of a grave crime an opportunity to pose as victims while denying their victims a fair chance to be heard. Such inquiry, with a flawed and misguided approach, cannot seriously be taken as a genuine, independent and impartial human rights investigation. In conclusion, I would like to note that the government of Ethiopia will continue in its effort to overcome the challenge posed by a well-armed and financed terrorist entity that is trying to reverse the democratic gains of the past 3 years. We will continue to engage constructively with all relevant stakeholders for the improvement of the human rights situation in Ethiopia. In relation to this, we call upon the international community and the Human Rights Council to condemn the use of terrorist tactics, child soldiers, as well as the mass killing of civilians, the organized looting and wanton destruction that the TPLF has been inflicting in Afar and Amara regional states. It is high time that the world wakes up to the reality that the TPLF is the aggressor and not the victim in this tragedy. I thank you.
I thank you.